If you wouldn't mind, I would like you to think about if this sounds familiar to you. If I wouldn't worry about this so much, I feel like I would not be prepared enough when the challenge does arise. Or I could not possibly enjoy myself and enjoy this beautiful thing that is going on in my life right now, because to enjoy myself right now instead of worrying would be like denying that this massive problem in my life exists. Or once the challenge or the thing you're preparing that you were worrying about does come about and you go through it and it's finally over, do you ever say this? Oh, that wasn't nearly as bad as I was anticipating, as I was worrying about. But I feel like if I hadn't worried about it so much, it would have been much more difficult and bad and so hard to go through. It was my worrying that prepared me for all kinds of scenarios, which I then frantically or otherwise prepared for. And that's why it wasn't as bad as I thought. This is one of the biggest lies that goes on in our heads. And it's what makes us miss life. And it speeds past us. And I want to talk about that a little bit today, how we might approach this mindset and how we might counter lies with undeniable truth. To do that, I want to ask ourselves, if we ever care about things, if we ever worry about things that are not important to us, that we don't feel are important. We don't, right? And closely, inseparably together with that goes the fact that everything that we deem is important to us. In other words, it somehow constitutes, is part of the idea of who we think we are, or who we want to be, or what separates us from all those people that we don't want to be like. These are the things that are important to us. These are the criteria that make things seem important to us. Whether they are important or not, they seem important to us because of how they relate to our identity, to who we think we are, who we think we want to become, who we think we should become. And this is the trap. It's all ready for us to walk in. Because everything that constitutes identity is something external to us. We, in ourselves, when we're born, we do not have an identity. And we live just fine without it. All the bodily functions, everything works. And in fact, some of the most so-called admired people, because of their happiness, because of their joy, because of the meaning they find in their lives, and the determination they have and the purpose they seem to have, all those people don't seem to have an identity in the way that we do. They seem to never talk about biographical things, about personalities and so on and so forth, about themselves, certainly. And this is why they do not. Everything that seems important to us personally, to make or break us, everything that constitutes our past, current, or future desired identity, is something external to us. If it wasn't external to us, we wouldn't have to worry about it. If my car was not external to me, I wouldn't have to worry about where I would park it. If my money wasn't external to me, I wouldn't worry about how to attain it. And that's another thing. Before I have the money, am I nothing? Is some part of me gone or missing, not there? And when I do have it, how can it be that someone can take it away from me? without any right to it. They're external to me. And this is why all those aforementioned people that we look up to say, do not care about externals. Happiness is not found outside of you. It's found within you. In other words, in everything that is truly yours and everything that is internal. And they say this. Why? Because of this. Everything that is not truly yours that you identify with is not truly in your control. And to worry about things that are not truly in your control is maddening. And it's worrying. And it's angering. And it's frustrating. And so we drive ourselves crazy. We hold ourselves responsible for things that are not in our control. Have you ever heard anything that sounds more torturous than that? To hold oneself responsible for something that one is not in control of. As we think like this, as we regret past things and worry about future things, life passes us by, literally. Because we're constantly back and forth, never here. This is what identity does. This is what worrying does. And to demonstrate the opposite to you very quickly, I want you to see how much time there really is in a day, how much time there really is in a life when you just become still, because worrying is frantic, being angry is frantic, anxiety is frantic. It's all everywhere, all over the place, constantly moving, never stopping. But when you come into the presence, you have no other choice in a good sense. You're home to be still, to relax. Just look at this. Just be still for a very short amount of time and just feel how expansive the present moment really is. That was 9 seconds. Only 9 seconds. Now imagine if you lived like this, as much as you want, not all the time, not even the majority of it, as much as you want. Imagine if you could live like this. And if you think you can't, ask yourself this simple question. What if, just for the sake of the argument, what if the things that seem so important to me, in fact, were not important at all? Does that feel freeing? Just for the sake of the argument, I know it's not the case, but if it was so, wouldn't that feel freeing? And another excuse, another lie that keeps that other bigger lie alive is, well, if I'm always in the present, if I'm always aware, if I'm never stuck in the past or the future, planning, worrying about things, how can I exist as a human being in the daily, logistical, practical world? So I have to do this. It's a necessity for me. I can't just sit around. The truth is, the problem is not that you think about logistics, that you think about the future, that you plan, that you prepare, but that you worry. And that we think that planning, preparing, doing the right thing goes along with worrying, that these are two inseparable things. But this is not true. We've talked about this before, about anger. People often have the excuse that anger is necessary to give you the motivation, to give you the purpose, to give you the energy to do something that's undeniably right, to get justice, to defend yourself, to defend others. And we talked about that before, and we said Look at every single thing that you do that you think was the right thing to do, that was the effective thing to do, that was the practical and right thing to do, and tell me, look at it, if you could not have done it without anger. If someone has stolen from you, has robbed you, what would you do with anger that you couldn't do without anger? Gathering your evidence, going to the police, giving a proper description of the items lost and the person responsible. All of these things are better done without anger than with anger. Without the franticness, without the short memory and the short fuse that comes with anger. And it's the same exact thing with worry. Everything that you can do with worry, you can do without worry, and you can do it better. Every single proper, right, effective thing that goes into preparing for future challenges are of the nature of non-worry, not of worry. They all come from reason and common sense and logistical information, knowledge. Worry does nothing for you. And if it only was that, it actually damages you truly and properly, more than anyone on the outside external to you could. So the key to never worrying, yet always being prepared and being able to plan for the future, is to turn worry off. And worry immediately gets turned off as soon as you realize it is unnecessary and in fact harmful. As soon as you know this, you cannot unknow it. As soon as you see it, you cannot unsee it. And worry has no reason left to justify itself within you. Before, remember, it was justifying itself by saying, I am necessary. Without me, you wouldn't have thought of these things. Without me, you wouldn't have had the drive to prepare properly. Without me, you would have spent your time idly in pleasure, not having a care in the world, but you need to have these cares. These are important things. You are not allowed to be happy until you're properly prepared and then the challenge is overcome. Of course, what it doesn't tell you is there's always a challenge. And again, what it doesn't tell you is that it's not necessary. That you can do every single thing that you have ever done correctly, properly, and effectively with great success in these logistical matters. None of it was thanks to worry. And it was, in fact, despite of worry.